Most of what we do on a daily basis is automatic, like brushing your teeth. You do not even think about it, and most of the time you do not even realize that you are doing it. This is especially true with how you handle your money. In this video, I am going to talk about 8 money habits that keep you poor. Before recognizing these 8 bad money habits, I was always in debt and had trouble saving any money. But once I realized what I was doing, I started replacing bad money habits with good money habits. And that is exactly what helped me pay off $80,000 of student loans in just a few years, and to finally start investing my money so that I could work smarter, not harder. Your habits have ripple effects that get compounded over time, and they ultimately determine who you become and whether you will end up rich or poor. That is why it is super important to recognize any bad money habits you have early on and replace them with good money habits. Everyone tells you buying a house is the ultimate goal, a symbol of success, stability, adulthood. But to be honest with you guys, buying a home can actually set you back, not only financially but emotionally and even mentally if you do it for the wrong reasons. Now, I am not saying that owning a home is bad, but I am saying it is not always the smart move that people make it out to be. And after buying one myself about 2.5 years ago, I learned firsthand that what is sold as the American dream sometimes can feel like a financial trap. So, I am going to break down why buying a house might be one of the most overhyped decisions out there, especially in today's market. Now, let us start out with just debunking this myth here, and that is that owning a home automatically makes you wealthy. People love to say that renting is throwing money away, or you are paying someone else's mortgage. But the part that nobody mentions is that you are always paying someone's mortgage. The only difference is whether you are paying the bank through interest, property taxes, and maintenance, or you are paying a landlord for flexibility and freedom. And the reality of all of this is that home ownership, it is not guaranteed wealth. It is a leveraged bet which can definitely work out long term. But like any bet, timing, interest rates, and opportunity costs all matter. Money habit number 1 is paying yourself last. Here is what I mean by this. As soon as you get paid, you pay your rent, your phone bill, your gym membership. You go out to dinner, you buy something nice for yourself. And you are planning to save if there is any money left at the end of the month. Problem is, there is never any money left to save. Sound familiar? People who get ahead financially do the exact opposite. They pay themselves first. That means that before they start paying their bills, swiping their cards left and right, and giving money to everyone else and their mother except for themselves. They put a portion of everything they make into their own pockets first. Then they pay their bills and live on what is left. They prioritize making themselves richer versus making other people richer. People who are good at saving money all understand something called Parkinson's Law. So Parkinson's Law is the principle that demands will always expand to consume all available resources. That is why if you have a week to finish a project, you end up taking all that time to finish it, and you are probably pretty inefficient with your time. Whereas if you have just 1 hour to finish that same project, you will be super focused and efficient and still get it done. So work expands to consume all available time, and it is the same with money. Your spending will expand to consume all available money. Whether you have $100 or $100,000, your expenses will keep increasing to consume all the money that you have. That is why making more and more money is not always the answer. And saving money after you do all your spending is just not going to work, because your spending will always rise to just eat up all that money. You got to pay yourself first. You got to treat saving money like a bill. As soon as you get paid, commit to setting aside 10% or whatever percentage that you can handle, and put that towards savings and investments, and then just live on what is left. So if you want to stop letting money slip through your fingers, and you actually want to start keeping some of what you make for yourself, then give up money habit number 1 for good. The next money habit to give up is trying to keep up with friends who have expensive tastes. So do you have friends who always want you to go out to expensive restaurants and go shopping with them, and go on trips with them and stay in nice hotels? So if you have friends with bigger budgets than yours, then it is okay to be authentic and say, hey, I cannot do that because I am working towards some financial goals right now and I need to save money. It is out of my budget. If they are real friends, they will understand. Everyone has very different levels of tastes as well as very different budgets. So trying to keep up with everyone around you is going to leave you broke and in debt. This includes friends as well as people you see on social media. The reality is the average person has very little in savings and an average of $40,000 in debt. And that is not even including mortgages. So a lot of what you see in terms of amazing lifestyles on social media is often just an illusion. In fact, I personally know someone who is always posting photos of herself traveling to all kinds of exotic locations, and it really looks like she has this glamorous, awesome life. But the reality is she has $20,000 in credit card debt and has zero in savings and investments. So do not be fooled. A lot of what you see is not real, and chasing experiences just so you can post a cool photo or look good to everybody else is a recipe for ending up broke. I think it basically comes down to this. Would you rather look rich or would you rather be rich? If you dream about becoming financially independent one day, you have to stop caring what everyone else thinks about you, because no one else is going to make it happen for you, but you just learn how to speak up for yourself. Do not be afraid to turn down invitations or just suggest cheaper activities for you and your friends, because chances are people will respect you for having your priorities straight. And it will probably inspire them to reassess their financial priorities as well. Now, let us talk about some of the hidden costs of home ownership that they do not tell you about. When people calculate whether they can afford a house or not, they mainly look at the mortgage payment, and that is it. But the mortgage payment is only the beginning. You have got property taxes that can increase every year. You have home insurance, which has been skyrocketing lately. You have things like repairs, maintenance, HOA fees, lawn care, and random things that you have to fix, especially if they break at a really bad time. That can be a huge headache to deal with. I remember reading that the average homeowner spends between 1 to 4% of their home's value per year on maintenance, which is quite a bit. I mean, that is thousands of dollars a year just to stay even. And when you compare that to investing that same amount of money into an index fund or maybe building a business, the math starts to look very different. And so, let me share a little bit about my personal experience buying a house. So, the main reason that I wanted to buy a house was in my early 20s. I decided that I wanted to build wealth through two main ways. I wanted half of my wealth to come from the stock market and the other half to come from real estate. And after buying my first home about 2.5 years ago, I was 24 years old at the time. I have decided to now go primarily into stocks and only a little bit into real estate. I lived in the house for a little bit over a year, and it is now a rental property that is just break even on cash flow. So, I am not making any money, but I am not losing any money either each month. And the main reason I wanted to buy was I thought, if I could buy my first house before 25, I would be in a really good position. And then I could turn it into a rental and get a bunch of cash flow and then take the cash flow and save that up and buy my second house. And then I have 2 rentals and I have a bunch of cash flow, and I have decided I no longer want to do that for a couple of different reasons. One of them, and one of the main things that I just talked about, is owning a home is a lot more expensive than you think. For example, when I lived in an apartment before I bought my home, my water bill was maybe, I don't know, $40 or $50 a month, but once I lived in my house, which was just a very normal house, it was a 3-bed, 2-bath, nothing huge, nothing small either, just very, normal house. I now had a front yard and a backyard. And so when the sprinklers were watering, that was wasting a ton of water. So my first couple of water bills, I am not kidding, were literally $250 to $300. And the solution for this was to run the sprinklers way less. Before I was running them 3 times a week, I changed it to 1 time a week. That way I was still watering the grass and it was not dying, but it was not flourishing either. And even then, my water bill was still I want to say $125 to $140. Most months, which was pretty annoying. And so, not only was I paying my mortgage, but I had to pay a lot higher water bill. My electric bill was kind of the same. The internet, of course, was pretty much the same. But then you have lawn care. And if the HOA ever complains about anything, you have to have somebody come out and fix it, which is pretty annoying, and that costs money. And on top of that, you have different repairs that happen. So, little things will break, and if the home is not under warranty, which mine was for the first year, but a little bit after that, I had a couple of things come up, which ended up costing me money. So that is another thing that is tough there, is you have expenses along the way, and that is very annoying about owning a home, especially when you compare it to an apartment. Like if you have a problem in your apartment, let us say that the garbage disposal is clogged, then you can just call somebody and they will fix it pretty quickly. Or let us say that the laundry is not working or the dishwasher is not working. You can just submit a maintenance request and they will come fix it either that day or pretty quickly. Compared to when you own a home, you either have to do all these things yourself or pay somebody else to do it. So, That has been my experience owning a home. And the thing I did not like about this was not only are you paying the mortgage payment, but your utilities are way higher when you own a home. And not only that, you can have expenses that hit you along the way, and you are going to have to either pay for all those or become a handyman. Whichever one sounds better to you. The third money habit to give up is putting everything on your credit card for the rewards. Now, do not get me wrong. Credit cards are amazing. I love my credit card. I haven't paid for a flight in years thanks to the rewards I rack up. But oftentimes, I find that people end up spending way more on their credit card than they would have spent otherwise. And that basically just cancels out all the benefits of having these rewards. I am guilty of this as well when I am considering whether to make a purchase or not. Sometimes I find myself justifying it because I think, hey, at least I will get miles for it. And this is even if I cannot actually afford it. So this is a very, very slippery slope. Ever since I realized this pattern, I have just stopped putting everything on my card. And here's what I do instead. For everyday small items like coffees and cab rides, I just pay for it with my debit card or cash. But if there is anything that is $100 or more, I basically put it on my credit card to get the points, but then I pay it off immediately, like within seconds of making the purchase, and I just do it all on my phone. That way it forces me to only buy things I can afford to pay for in cash, while also allowing me to get those benefits. Before I started doing it this way, I would usually just rack up a balance, and then every month I would be shocked at how much I had spent, because putting things on plastic really has a way of making you spend a little too mindlessly, especially if you are justifying your spending because of the rewards. So the money habit to give up is making sure you only put things on your rewards card if you have the money to pay for it in cash. And do not justify the purchase just because of the points or the miles. And so, let us talk a little bit about an opportunity cost here. Every dollar that is tied up in a down payment or home equity is a dollar that is not compounding for you elsewhere. So let us say you drop $60,000 on a down payment, which, if that was 20%, that would mean that you are buying a $300,000 house, which is pretty hard to find nowadays. But for the sake of example, let us call it, $60K. So that is the down payment amount. And if that money was invested in the S&P 500 and growing at 8% a year, then that is nearly $130,000 in 10 years. And people do not think of it this way because owning a house feels like an investment. But unless you are renting out rooms or flipping it, it is a liability that could cost you money every month. Like, yes, do not get me wrong. Owning a home is an asset, but the only way to actually get the equity out of your home is either by refinancing or selling the house or taking out like a line of credit. All these things I do not really want to do. So for example, let us pretend that you do the Dave Ramsey route and you buy a $500,000 house and you pay it off as quickly as possible. You no longer have a mortgage payment, which is great, but that $500,000 of wealth, you are not actually getting that unless if you sell the home or refinance. Which is kind of annoying in my opinion. And not only that, but real estate is very illiquid. So what I mean by that is if you have $60,000 in stocks, you can sell the stocks when the market opens and get that cash back in your account pretty quickly. Compared to if you want to sell a home, you got to put it on the market. And then not only that, but you have to pay fees to the agents, the brokers, all these different people when the home actually gets sold. And that is assuming the home does get sold. It could just sit on the market for 6 months and nobody buys it. So the lack of liquidity is another thing I am not